got a draft going on for game number 2 of Ascent versus Great White North. So we should probably get into that, check out that competitive nature, because both these teams are definitely vying for that top spot. And it's a single elimination.
It is single elimination, and this is a 1-0 advantage for Ascent. Great White North this time, however, is actually going to be picking up that first pick, first ban. And if we get into that, it does look like even as a first pick, they're going to be getting rid of that Zeratul.
Yeah, they want to make sure they get rid of that Zeratul. Of course, they don't want to leave it up to Ascent to have to ban that out. They just want to make sure that they know for certain that Zeratul is not going to be in this, because maybe they don't have a great Zeratul player for themselves.
And it does look like Jaina once more is going to be making her way into that first pick potential for Great White North. It's really just kind of the big standard de facto. If you got first pick, you almost always go Jaina, at least here in the NA side of things. The flip side, Kael'thas, so no Song of Fire and Ice for one team, but he's also going to get paired up again by Ascent with Rhaegar.
I will fight.
Rhaegar has gotten a huge amount of buffs in the last patch, and his healing potential has skyrocketed. At level 7, you can even start picking up things like Cleanse, which seems absolutely insane, but with his level 10 Heroic, you can keep somebody alive for a very long time as long as you land that Ancestral. Rhaegar is just so good right now. And to respond to that, we're seeing the Malfurion pickup here for Great White North.
So if we talk about bans just for a moment, knowing that we've already now gotten a Rhaegar and a Malfurion out of the way, the Uther ban kind of kills a lot of synergy for picking up melees, and this is Tomb of the Spider Queen. This is a very favorable map for melee engagers like Butcher, like Kerrigan. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Kerrigan ban about to come out from Ascent, because Great White North just finished off with a Johanna.
The crusade calls.
Yeah, but I don't know if you really want to go with a melee assassin with Malfurion. Now, older Malfurion, we go back and forth on this, I think, in the competitive community, whether or not Malfurion got a buff or a nerf in the last patch, because now he doesn't have that protective shield at level 4. He doesn't really have the ability to heal through that burst damage. All of his heals are pretty much heals over time, so it takes a little bit of time for those things to kick in. Tranquility is great, however, it's still just, it's not a burst heal. So putting in a melee assassin where you'd really want to have that burst healing, Malfurion's really not the best. They might probably want to go for maybe a double warrior with ranged assassins, or just heavy ranged assassins with one warrior. That's pretty, I think, where Malfurion sits right now, unfortunately.
Well, Malfurion was the first ban, actually, last game.
It's true.
As well. So we have actually now seen, and this is a trend that I first noticed in EU, where we actually ban out the healers first. It kind of does force a lot of the teams to change their strategies, because if there's already one healer banned out and you get a first pick healer and then the double bans come in, you could actually be outpicked for your support. So that's why we do see kind of like these first round picks for the supports, because they don't want to, even be bothered by having to run perhaps a Brightwing or a Lily.
That's true. And oh man, isn't it weird that Brightwing is actually a lesser pick now than Lily in competitive? Doesn't that just blow your mind?
Yeah, it's something. I'll tell you that.
All right, so we've got those second bans coming out there. The Tassadar going out there, so double support bans coming out here from Ascent. And then an Anubarak ban coming out there from Great White North, because Ascent has not picked up their warrior yet. They don't want to let that huge bug into the game.
All right, so there's the Tyrande. Is it Butcher or is it Kerrigan? Is it Butcher or is it Kerrigan?
I would go for Butcher. If we're playing on Tomb of the Spider Queen, actually, I don't know. Kerrigan would be a really good pickup here as well. She's very strong on this map, as we always say. So it's a curiosity.
Now, on the flip side, Great White North, they have the Jaina, Johanna, they have a Malfurion for Innervates. Is this the best setup you could ever ask for an Azmodan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great setup for Azmodan. And in fact, that's probably what they're trying to draft here.
It's Azmodan and the double J's.
And you can even pick up the Moonburn with Malfurion as well to even help that out if you don't have one of those, one of the double J's there, the Johanna or the Jaina. Wow. So Zagara pick up here for Ascent.
Are they not showing their colors? I'm still very much in suspense. They got a Kael'thas, they got a Zagara. Actually, no, this can't be a melee now. They need a warrior.
Yeah.
So Ascent likely to be picking up a Mirrodin then. Now,
Tyrande, though, is so interesting. If they're not going to pick up
Tyrande Mirrodin as the roam still works. It's just not as damage heavy.
Yeah, and it's still a really good composition put together. It gets a little bit lessened, however, when you're going against a Malfurion and a Johanna. However, if you start targeting out that Jaina, that's where we're going to start seeing probably a lot of picks. So they have to be, so now Great White North, if Ascent picks up that Muradin, Great White North has to start roaming with Jaina. Jaina can't be alone.
Jaina, at this point, you're right, cannot. But Jaina plus Asmodan does lend itself to a lot of burst. Enough to go through double support? Perhaps not. But now that we had a Sylvanas still left on the table. Almost glossed over her on that one.
Right, Sylvanas getting picked up pretty late lately. We saw no first, second, third picks coming out of Sylvanas in game number 1, and then she was banned in the second set. And now she's getting picked up 4th for Great White North? Sylvanas, what happened?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people just kind of de-ranking Sylvanas in those priority picks. It's all right now about Jaina, Kael'thas to a higher degree. Now we've been seeing these supports as first-round picks because nobody wants to kind of get stuck. Once Monk comes out, it's going to be less of an issue because now you can't actually outban everyone.
If Monk's a good support.
If Monk's a good support, yeah, we're still minimum 6-7 weeks away from that. And thinking about that, I mean, Leoric himself, I mean, not coming up this Tuesday, but the Tuesday after this entire road to BlizzCon is done, should actually be the Leoric patch, which means we, in theory, are 3 weeks out from the Monk from there.
That's true. Very, very true. All right, so last pick, Great White North. They are taking a good amount of time to really think this through. I think they're actually questioning whether or not they want to go for that Asmodan or not.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the Sylvanas to push a lane, Asmodan to push another. The global support, the global promote is absolutely insane. And they have the best setup they could ever ask for here with the Johanna, Malfurion, and Jaina. So if it's not that, feels like it's going to be a Vala, like just for some of that multi-shot build like what we saw last time from Great White North.
Yeah, Vala would probably be a great pickup. But I don't know. I don't think
Falstad would go into this.
Well, yeah, you don't really want to pick up a Falstad. Wow. That's what they were thinking. That's what took them this much time, Jester. They want to steal the Muradin from them.
And if you think about it, there isn't a Nubarak out. So Double Warrior picked up, a Nubarak is banned. This is probably going to be a Tyrael. Yep, it's a Tyrael. Not probably what Ascent wanted to run, but at the same time, it's that or what? Arthas, ETC, Chen? You just don't see them that often here in NA.
Yeah, Arthas, if you're seeing a huge heavy engage composition, but Ascent, for all intents and purposes, did not have a heavy engage composition. It's not a composition that's going to be really running down on you until they saw that Tyrael, right? So you don't want to pick up an Arthas because he can't really engage without people running at him.
Right.
Chen is Chen.
Thank you.
He hasn't seen play for quite a bit, I don't think.
On either side of the pond.
Yeah, on either side, not even in China or Korea. I don't think we've seen any Chen.
On that note, I don't think we've seen anything out of Korea. I don't think we've seen the Korea road to BlizzCon at all.
I haven't seen it. I know that.
I've seen SEA. I've seen Latin America. I've seen North America. That's all I've seen.
Yeah. That's true. I don't know. But we've got our drafts. We've got our teams ready to go. I think we're just about to get this game started. Jester, game number 2 here. Match point.
It is going to be looking for a quick 2-0 here for Ascent to ascend into the brackets, as you were mentioning a bit earlier there. I know, I saw you roll your eyes. They didn't, I did. Eagle eyes right there. I got them Abathur eyes, them Sham 2 eyes. But double warrior comps have actually become something of a norm, at least in the tournament I was doing this week for the Hitbox, the Stormgrounds. Almost every single game between the quarters and semis had double warrior comps.
I believe I caught a couple of those, and it was actually very interesting to see because, for the most part, in the NA meta, we have not had many double warriors regularly. I think 2Arc has run a couple of double warriors, but for the most part, it's generally one warrior, a melee, and then 2 assassins and a support. But, I mean, we'll have to see how this double warrior is going to work out for them. I really love the fact that they sniped out the Muradin. Let's see how this game's going to go, though, Jester. We've got, on the left-hand side, our friends here from Ascent. We've got Zevel, Emperor, Parakletos, Mr. Tobacco. That's a great name. And Subs.
Subs. Yeah, the soothing words of Subs. On the flip side, though, Great White North, they're looking a little worse for wear. They got to be putting up a point here, but no, sir. Sky escaping jail, Fozen, and Insane. If they cannot make this comp work with this double warrior, then we're going to be saying goodbye to them here in this single elimination portion of the tournament. So you got to put your best foot forward here, gents. It's a small map. Make use of your double warriors for some of the roams, body blocking, and see if we can get a little bit of an advantage early on.
And already,
shh, Jester, we're hiding in a bush. See that? Yes. Quiet. We have to be really quiet right now.
Oh, they're getting out of the bush. I guess they weren't feeling quiet enough. They've got Fozen sitting here on the Muradin. He looks like he wants to get a couple of stun hammers on in there. And look at that really awesome skin he's got there. Ooh, that is a really cool color.
I can't even find Muradin off the top of my head.
You can just...
There he is. Yeah, King Magni. Yep.
Yeah, the King Magner one. I always like that skin. It's a very pretty one.
So Muradin is basically cosplaying as his dead brother.
He even cosplays further when he actually goes into his heroic and becomes crystallized, which is what his brother used to do instead of turn to stone.
All right, so not dead brother, but frozen brother. You can put it that way. Yeah.
Well, he is part of the Great White North.
Level 2 coming out, and something to notice here that kind of catches the eye is that Parakletos, he was our Falstead last round. He has seasoned marksman on Tyrande.
That is a... Ooh.
Yep.
I couldn't even finish that sentence. That is a very interesting pickup here for
spit.
Tyrande. We're going to probably see Searing Arrows at level 4.
It's very likely at this point. It's only a build that I've seen a handful of times, but a bit more of a damage-oriented Tyrande can actually do some massive damage, especially on these small little engage-heavy maps, because she's likely to go into the Lunar Blaze, and the damage from that would lead us into a lot of uptime for those Searing Arrows.
Well, already we're having pretty much a stale game so far. Nothing really too crazy going on. Just a little bit of a skirmish here on in the mid lane. But Mr. Tobacco, the Rhaegar, is getting engaged upon. But guess what? He can heal himself up pretty easily. Insane. Taking a little bit of damage, but he's going to back up. Nothing too crazy going on here. Both these teams just hoarding up their gems. 22 to 27 in the gem count.
Yeah, the big thing is that right now escaping jail, even as Sylvanas, is not getting any kind of big value because he's not part of the roam comp. Top, though, into the roam comp, looking for Zevel. We did have one heal. It's not enough. Parakletos will actually just have to stand around as the Kael'thas will have merely a setback of a respawn timer.
Level 4 focused attacks coming out here from the Tyrande every 10 seconds. Your next basic attack deals 75% more damage.
Oh,
Mr. Tobacco, oh no! You know what they say, tobacco kills, and he is gonna go down.
I think those gems are also going to just be lost now. That's a little bit of a blow right there. 24 to 40 with 0 dunk down on either side. I mean, that's the big thing on this map. That's why it's so engage heavy and favored towards these early game comps, because you can just immediately just remove portions of those objectives from your opponent.
Yeah, and that's what's really great about a roam composition, like what Great White North is using right now. You can use that roam composition. If you have a 4-person barreling down on one person, they go down, they've got a lot of gems. Guess what? You're not going to go in there and grab those gems from the 4-person group that's standing right there. It's going to be a little bit too difficult. So it's a very, very strong composition. It's why Kerrigan normally gets banned out on this map or gets picked.
Yeah, and we didn't actually still see any of those melees yet. I mean, there's a lot of potential for Butcher, a lot for Kerrigan. I mean, Kerrigan was even a ban last round on a big map, but nobody actually running to it, run it. There's also no Azmodan here, which is similarly kind of perplexing.
That is actually a pretty interesting point. No Azmodan, even though both these teams, I think they could have run an Azmodan very easily, given their compositions. But going with the Zagara, of course, is also a really good idea if we're talking about specialists, just because we can see already in that bottom lane, look at all that creep. It's creeping about. It's giving vision of that bottom shrine very easily there for both these teams. And actually, wow, take a look at the experience. Evened up now.
A slight lead coming up from Great White North, but it's not exactly tangible at this point. It's still 2 kills nil, but we have had people actually rotating and soaking up some of the experience, so they haven't been missing out a huge amount. The bigger difference is still, the gem count between the teams. We got 23 to 12. Everything else is actually tied up. 42 dunked down. You see a bit of damage on Emperor, but he will be able to live through it. And what kind of big aggression are we going to see? Who will get the first turn in, and what are the teams going to do with it?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question because both these teams could easily turn in now. It's not like there was a huge gem disparity like before. They both have the ability to get that 50 gems, and it looks like that is what Ascent is trying to go for. Escaping from jail is getting engaged upon. Will have to back up here and delay that turn in for now, but Great White North is going to be able to pick up that first turn in.
All right, so usually what I would recommend is with the Sylvanas, you turn in with that lane. That's where you should be pushing because you want to use that passive in order to disable the towers, disable the fort, so that you get more value out of those spider lanes. But right now, it looks like they're going to be trying to catch out on top of Emperor. He threw the sword kind of the wrong way, didn't he, Shampoo?
Yeah, he did, but he did get the cleanse from the Rhaegar to be able to disengage from that. That was a little bit scary right there. And you know what? You can do a couple of different things with Sylvanas. You can actually just have her push by herself, but with that Sagara down there, it's not going to be easy for Sylvanas to push solo. So they're going to just put a 5-person mid, and it looks like they just want to push down this gate very easily, and then probably rotate back up top. Ooh, escape from jail, making a Lunar Flare. A little bit of damage going on back and forth between both these teams. Great White North, a little bit scary. Escape from jail actually getting engaged upon just a little bit. Now Fozen and Sky have to disengage. There is a huge amount of damage, and that is going to be a kill there on Sky. Insane, taking a good amount of damage. Fozen now has to take the cleanse and disengage, but oh, the living bond there from Zevel is going to complete the job.
That was a really good gravity lapse coming out there from Zevel. Catch both of those opponents, and as you saw, I mean, the turnaround was a 2 takedown advantage. So now we're tied up, 2 kills apiece, 33 to 27 for the gems. We only need to put in 2 here from Ascent, and with that turn in, they might be able to take the advantage in terms of the experience, and then even threaten with heroics for a bit of a better time. But we'll have to see if they actually will prioritize dunking down. Mr. Tobacco is going to put in 6, and there's nobody here to stop him, but it does look like Bruisers will be coming into the mid lane here from Great White North.
Yes, and that's going to be a really nice way to try and deal with a little bit of these web weavers, of course, because the Bruisers very, very tanky. They're going to be able to just get on that middle web weaver and just start doing a good amount of damage. Though Zevel trying to wear them down before that actually happens.
It's a good
idea. They might be able to clean them up. Yep. Well, it's going to at least push the web weaver back a bit. Gives them a good amount of time to actually clean up top and mid.
Yeah, nobody's bottom right now. It's a big collapse. The 5-man collapse from Great White North into the top. Level 10s on both sides. Looking, taking a quick look. It's going to be Starfall, as expected there from our Tyrande, but her level 7 is Lunar Blaze. It was actually just the focus attack. We mentioned it a bit earlier. Kind of ripped Searing Arrows. I guess it just wasn't going to be worth it. Nothing else really seems out of the ordinary here, but one thing to note is Mirrodin is actually going Perfect Storm, Sledgehammer, and Piercing Bolt. That's a pure Stormbolt build.
Yeah, going super on into that Stormbolt. And that's going to be pretty good, considering there's not a ton of auto attack except for from that Tyrande. So it's a little bit curious, but at the same time, you don't really want to go for the super reverberation build just because it's going to be hard to find a single target to use that Thunderstrike against. But this is going to help out their pushing potential just a little bit more, using that Sylvanas, using the Mirrodin Stormbolts, because that 400% damage, that is so good. Meanwhile, both these teams got the heroics.
So every time he hits a hero with that Stormbolt as well, and it's going to pierce, it's 5 damage. So every time he gains 5 damage, 400%, he actually gains 20 damage against siege, siege damage contributions. So for every hero he hits, the next building you'll hit is for 20 more.
And that's just, and that can just get so ridiculous later on. That can be up to 2k damage per hit, and that pierces. So you can clean up minions, you can clean up siege golems, you can see boss, anything. That works on all of it, as long as it's not a hero for the most part. So this Mirrodin is going to be really, really good at being able to just deny the enemy that pushing potential. Meanwhile, there is a little bit of a scuffle here. Blue going to be able to turn in their web weavers yet again, so Ascent getting the double turn in.
Yep, double turn in. I mean, they got a lot of value out from that the bottom push. Top, maybe not so much, and mid was actually a heavy defense there as well, which is where you currently see Great White North. But bottom lane, escaping jail, I mean, this should be the lane I would expect you to kind of try to get in for one of those forts, but it's actually going to be a catch top.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is actually going to be a kill. Sky used the unstoppable, but unfortunately is not going to be able to get away from Emperor's judgment. Justice is here, guys. Emperor, though, waiting for foes to come out of that, and that was a great gravity lapse. He pops his avatar, but it's not enough. Look at that massive gem going to waste there.
That was majority of their gems, too. We're down to 17 after that. And again, you know, another two takedown cleanup. This has to be a fort somewhere, champion.
Oh, it's going to be maybe bot lane. Yeah, bot lane looks like it's going to be get cleaned up unless Insane can put out some insane damage on that web weaver. No, just going to back up. Not feeling safe. Already notices the transition there of Emperor and Zevel. So making sure she's not going to get engaged upon and immediately eliminated by that 4-person roaming squad. So they're just going to run around, clean up as much as possible. But they lost 2 forts here, Jester. This is a pretty big loss structure-wise.
And now we have that level 13 talent advantage. Judgment is actually almost back up, but we're not going to have the Maw ready to go. We're not going to have the Starfall. So it doesn't look like Ascent is going to be very interested in fighting yet. They are just kind of falling back, splitting up, soaking. We do got a ping there on top of the Bruisers, and it looks like they're making their way over that way. So that will be a little bit of pressure to resume pushing into this mid, but I don't think Great White North will let that go unanswered, and they're going to go for their own Bruisers here as well.
And keep in mind, level 13 has also been grabbed here by Ascent, so they're sitting in a pretty good spot. They picked up the Groove Spines on Zagara, so she's just going to have such great pushing potential, mixing that with the battle momentum. The more and more, and especially with the Envenom Spines, to get even more battle momentum procs because she has now an increased range. So she can just get so many Hydralisks out there, especially when she starts picking up that Brute expansion to level 16. She's just going to be able to tear anybody apart in those team fights. That sustained damage is so ridiculous.
All right, so Johanna's going into Hold Your Ground, so increases the shield by 20%. And at the same time, Mirrodin is going to go into the Spell Shield. Same with the Sylvanas. We do have double Ice Block on the back as well. A very defensive talent here coming up from Great White North. But one thing I also going to point out, Huntress's Fury. For our Toronto.
Just looking at that.
Yeah, 40% attack speed when using Hunter's Mark. She is really going to be trying to put up the hurt, especially with those Seasoned Marksman stack.
Seasoned Marksman plus the Focus Attack, which also, Focus Attack, it does 75% extra damage every 10 seconds. But the more basic attacks you put out, the more often you get Focus Attack procs. So, adding that into the attack speed is going to be great. Zevel getting a little bit of an engagement upon him, but oh my, that's actually not going to work out so well for them. They are going to get a huge Maw down. No, sir, now trying to keep everybody alive, but Emperor is going to fall pretty quickly. I'm sorry, not Emperor. Sylvanas is going to fall. Escaping Kill is going to fall pretty quickly. I saw the E and just immediately assumed Emperor. Speaking of Emperor, though, in the thick of things here.
Yeah, he's going really deep. He was trying to grab that takedown on top of Insane, but we had a good Tranquility from No Sir. Doesn't look like it'll actually come to any more kills. At least it shouldn't at this point. Sky is re-engaging, but I mean, No Sir's already used everything, and that's almost a level 16 Flame Striking kill fast. So you have to kind of disengage before you get caught unawares by that extra little bit of damage with that Ignite applied to the Flame Strike. So they're going to back off. It is, again, another fight going the way of Ascent in terms of takedowns. 5-2 overall, and they're about to hit the 16 mark. It's not quite the sweet spot of 16, 13, but another turn-in on the back of all this, champion.
Right, and so this is going to be just more and more damage. They can easily start getting a huge team fight right before this or during this, and possibly if they force it mid or top, they could easily pick up that keep bot lane. So that's going to be a very, very scary thing to bounce back and forth and make sure that they're not letting those web weavers encroach too far on that bot lane. So this is going to be a really big ticket item for Great White North to stall this out without losing too much, especially against a level 16.
True Shot Aura for the level 16, so it's not going to be the Shooting Star. Another 15% basic attack damage for her and her allies. It's becoming a very scary kind of auto-attacking comp, but kind of, you know, we said Mirrodin not going into the Reverberation builds. Might have been a little bit of a mistake between Tyrande, the auto-attacking Tyro, and Zagara.
Yeah, that was actually probably a little bit of a misstep, but who could have known that this build was going to come out? Speaking of which, there's a huge engagement going on here. The Maw actually hitting 2 of the members in the backline. That's Noser, whose tranquility was pretty much negated by the fact that he was in the Maw. Sky now getting completely ripped apart there by Emperor and the rest of Ascent. This is going to be a keep. The Flame Strike with the Ignite doing a good amount of damage to Noser, has to force him back, escaping jail, has no way to get into this fight. There's one keep going down there, and Jester, there's the Web Weavers in the bot lane like I was talking about. They're now able to push in here, and there was just no way to delay this here for Great White North. They are getting absolutely destroyed.
Yep, that bottom lane is advanced up. That's going to be a 2 keep, possibly even 3 if they go for the rotation. The top fort did fall as well to the big pressure. You see a big creep wave, but it does get cleaned up by that unstable poison from Sylvanas into the top lane. But still 18-15, we're still up an entire talent tier. And when you have no other objectives on the map, where do you go? Into the throw pit.
Yes, and this is going to be a pretty great spot for them right now. You know, you'd think, oh, guys, why would you go for this? It's the throw pit. They're all up, but it's 18-15 in the levels. They're still up a talent here. This is absolutely an easy pickup, and they had Emperor scouting out in case there was any type of engagement coming in there from Great White North. And with the boss, with the pushing potential, with Zevil sitting there with 5 stacks of gathering power, I don't know about this.
Yeah, if you cannot take down that Kael'thas, he will be a pain in your neck. And look at this. I mean, he's just going to come out, boom, big damage, escaping jail. Is just going to blow up as well, down to almost half health. Insane. Again, like, they have these spell shields, they have these ice blocks, but so far it is not availing any use in these team fights.
Yeah, Malfurion is having such a hard time trying to keep everyone alive, and oh my god, escaping jail gets absolutely decimated. Boza now taking a huge amount of damage, has to pop Stoneform in order to stay alive for a little bit longer, but unfortunately, the rest of the team is getting destroyed. There's a nice block to deny a little bit of damage. Nosu just barely going to get back into the fountain. But I don't know. I don't know if they can hold this off. The boss going straight in here for the core. Insane, taking so much damage. That's going to be a GG coming out there from escaping jail. And it looks like Ascent is going to ascend the bracket with a 2-0 victory over the Great White North.
Well, congratulations to them. Really good to see Emperor and crew into Heroes of the Storm, but now coming out strong and swinging here in the round of 128 for the July Road to Blizzcon. They take an impressive victory against one of the more known teams here in the amateur and semi-pro circuits. Absolutely fantastic stuff from them, but a nice 2-0 means that they do advance into the round of 64. And who are their next opponents possibly going to be here, Shamtu?
That's what I'm curious about. Let me run a little bit of... Oh, I just had the brackets open, but I lost them.
It's going to be the winner of the Hardcore Caravan versus the Shuffle button.
I accidentally clicked the rewards button because I was so curious of how much money everybody's going to be making here. But that's a couple of names.
That is a couple of names. Yeah, that is a couple of names. Tell you that. So again, congratulations, Emperor and crew, expecting big things out of you. Good luck in your next round of 64 matches. Just they're drafting very on point. I mean, one of the big counters that we don't really get to talk a lot about for Malfurion is how do you stop out the Tranquility? Well, there's really only one thing that happens. You can't interrupt it. You can polymorph, it doesn't interrupt. You can stun, it doesn't interrupt. Zagara Maz.
Yeah, Zagara Maz is just so good at being able to disrupt so many different things.
You can either take away the people that he's healing, thus wasting the cooldown, or you can take him down and negate all the healing to everybody. Either way, I mean, there was very little times. In fact, I can't even think of one in that fight that Zagara missed with them all. And every time it was a capitalization, and they got that takedown. And Ascent, by the end of it, 10 kills to 2 with a 3-level advantage.
Yeah, they played absolutely perfectly. I'm curious to see how they're going to play going on into the later stages of the bracket, because they're a pretty good team, but are they a match for the more competitive teams? That's the question here. So I guess we'll come back to that in a bit when we find out what our next match is.